This is the Roller Coaster Podcast, and I'm your host, Lucy Q. Life is a wild ride. It has twists and turns. It's scary, exciting, and downright fun. So throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride.
Today's guest is unstoppable. The founder of 2 multi-million-dollar agencies, top 50 under 50 in Atlanta, and twice awarded top 100 IT agencies, all before 40. Stacey Ruth is joining me today to share how she pushed through adversity and made friends with being uncomfortable. Hi, Stacey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So I have to ask, that's quite a list of accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
But experience has taught me that when you're on the outside looking in,
Oh, yeah.
there's all these fantastic things going on, but behind the scenes might not be so good.
Paddling like hell. Absolutely. It's really funny because, all before the age of 40, as you introduced me, I started my first agency at the tender age of 29, and there was no internet. That's how old I am. So I
was gonna say, wait a second. I think we're about the same age, Stacey.
Shh, we won't tell anyone. That'll just be our secret. You can edit that out. But I will tell you, I didn't have anybody to turn to be my guru like Google and give me that quick and handy, do this, do that, and skip all of the pain of learning on the job. And so when I started my first agency, I probably made maybe not all the mistakes that are possible, but I made some really juicy ones. I worked so hard. I worked at this mega agency. It was the largest production agency in the world. At the time, it was the first and maybe the last one to ever go public. And they did fun things like the Hong Kong transition ceremonies and the Windows 95 launch with the Rolling Stones broadcast all over the world. And if you didn't have $1 million, we don't want to talk to you. And it was a sweatshop. They don't exist today, I can say that. But I was working sun up to sundown, and I wanted out of there, and I thought I could do it better. And so I started my own agency, and I became a worse boss than I had to begin with. My boss was a brute. She had me up at 5 a.m. and she had me working until 11 at night. I don't even think I slept. And that was how I got it started. So I didn't have room to strategize. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a marketing plan. I was going full out 24/7. And I'll be honest with you, I think it played an enormous role in the end of my first marriage. I wasn't there. I was there, but I wasn't there. And then I chose to marry one of my business partners and then divorce him 6 years later. So I had 2 failed marriages during this business. And I will tell you what, you can be as nice as you could possibly imagine. And if you're the partners in the business, your employees are going to know that things aren't right. Your clients are going to know things aren't right. In fact, I had some clients that really wanted me to dish. They wanted the good gossip. I wasn't stopping to really look at the finances. We hired a bookkeeper. We did all the right things. And we looked at her background in the state of Georgia, where I am, but not nationally. And she stole my identity. Oh, yeah. We did all kinds of fun, crazy, wrong things. And yet we continued to double in revenue and double in size almost every year, year over year until 9/11.
But going at that relentless pace,
Mhm.
that, it took a toll, as you said, it took a
Yes,
toll on
Lord.
your marriage,
Oh,
but
yeah.
your marriage is, but that's going to take a toll on who you are, because, in all the conversations I've had and all the women I've spoken to, one of the things that we neglect first is ourselves, our own self-care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and it took a toll on my health. It took a toll on my mental health. It took a toll on my physical health. Um, and it just was, 24/7, you're going all out. Think about the adrenaline, think about the cortisol. I was sick all the time, colds, but I also was gaining weight. I had hair loss. I had all kinds of fun stress factors. I'm lucky I didn't have chronic diseases as a result of it, but it was enough to really beat me up.
So did you hit that wall? Did you hit that rock bottom? Did you hit that pivotal moment where you're like, life has got to change?
Absolutely. It took me a minute or two or 15 years, but um, but it's really interesting to me because you talk about all the success and checking all the boxes, and there is almost an addictive quality to that. The addictive quality is if I can only fill in the blank, have more money, grow to this scale, get this client, whatever it is, then I will feel like I have succeeded. And so what was happening was my health was crumbling. And it was in my second agency that I chose to then step back, take quote unquote early retirement, and sold my shares in my second agency. My business partner's still running it today. We're still friends. It's, all good. But I had to get the heck out of there. And I started my most current iteration, and it has been transformational to be able to come forward and help other women, other leaders, other executives, because the stress isn't going away. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse for everyone, and especially right now.
Yeah. And, I think there's this myth out there called if then,
Oh,
because exactly
absolutely.
what you said is that, we plug that in different parts of our life,
Mhm.
if this, then that, or when this, then that. We're always
Absolutely.
looking for, a mark to hit
Mhm.
so that we can give ourselves permission to ...
Absolutely. The belief underneath it, you can be wildly successful by external means, and I call that going with the flow. You can be successful by external means and, getting all of the boxes checked and not really be satisfying your inner sense of meaning and purpose, which was me to a T. The reason that I do that is because I have imposter syndrome. I believe that that I'm supposed to get these external validations, and I don't trust, well, I do now, thank goodness, but at the time I didn't trust my own intuition. I didn't trust my own sense of knowing what was right for me. You had to tell me it was right for me. You had to give me a pat on the back and tell me what a smart cookie I was. And I think women probably deal with that more. Certainly those that don't feel like they have a seat at the table deal with that more. However, today, instead of going with the flow, I'm working to go in the flow, to be pulling that inner sense of where's my intentionality? Where is my focus? What are my priorities? What are my values that I'm living through? And that's how I really am able to bounce back, is by tapping into that inner energy, that reset, that balance that exists inside me, not all of this external, doesn't she look good on Facebook?
Oh, and that's it exactly, is, that lens of social media is so evil for so many people. It's because, from the outside looking in, if I was to go on your LinkedIn profile 10 years ago and I'd see Stacey's doing this and Stacey's doing that, I'd be like, holy crap, look
Yeah.
at Stacey. What's wrong with me?
Yeah. I mean, I try to go on a social media diet. Of course, I am a marketer by trade, and that is something, marketing and branding and building, you know, my own and my clients' influence and impact. It does rest on being able to tell your story and tell your story to the world and tell it beautifully to the world. But it's important to be authentic about it. I'm sitting here telling you, I killed my health. I failed 2 marriages. By the way, I am happily married today and have been married happily for 12 years. So there is hope. But ultimately, I have to get real about what it is that's going on. And I have to really pay attention to my need that I still deal with today to judge my insides by other people's outsides.
And, I think, you know, I think back to, I've been married for, oh my God, I'm going to not even remember how long I've been married for. Almost 30 years, I'm going to say. But it's not always been calm waters, because I wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't doing the things. And I hit a point in my life where I actually just ripped a giant hole in the middle of everything, because I had ignored what I call the whisper for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It was a whisper. I didn't listen. And then the voice got louder and louder. And then I still didn't listen. So it decided to hit me on the head with a 2x4.
Yeah, I call that the cosmic 2x4. Definitely.
Damn, she hurts when she hits you.
Yeah.
And, it's like in those moments that you sort of realize everything all of a sudden. And it takes a while to put all those pieces back together. And it was in that process of creating this massive hole that I actually moved from where I was to back to the city where I was raised, because I was looking for clarity. And the family was a shambles, and, it was all my doing. And one of the comments that people made was, I don't understand. You look like you had this fabulous life. You always have these pictures on Facebook. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at 1 second of my life.
Mm-hmm.
One smile. You're not seeing the shitstorm behind the picture.
Right. Right.
And, if I think we have to, as women and as, society as a whole, we have to start to honor that inner voice, that inner wisdom, because
Mm-hmm.
that's our true self. And more importantly, we have to be more authentic.
Absolutely. And what I find when I'm dealing with my clients, and I talk about this in my book, you have to be careful how you say the title, Own Your Own Shift, with an F, shift. I talk about trusting the fire within is actually a crucial part of any kind of personal transformation, any kind of bouncing back that you're going to do. Societally, we do not teach how to recognize, first of all, and secondly, how to then tap into it predictably in a way that we can trust our intuition. In fact, there's a lot of people that still say, even though research has validated it's for real and it can be tracked and measured, a lot of people still don't believe in intuition. We haven't got to the place where we believe in it as a culture yet.
Yeah.
And yet, all of these executives and leaders that I work with will tell you all day long, they're using their intuition for the most difficult decisions that they have where they don't have any data, because they know that it is more reliable, faster. I mean, the majority of our decision process is intuitive.
But society,
and we don't even know it's going on.
Yeah, but society doesn't want us to step out of that box. They don't want us to use our intuition, because it's exactly what we said earlier. They don't want us to step outside. They don't want us to stop going with the flow.
Well, and it's interesting because it's kind of like, society doesn't want to, who are they, right?
Yeah,
Which
it's
is an
the
interesting,
they.
right. It's an interesting question. And I think there's almost, in my ministerial training, we talk about the mass or the race consciousness. And so there's kind of an agreement that goes on as some of us are learning to trust our intuition. And I think that more and more and more people are. There's a movement behind that. But as that's happening, those that aren't feeling safe to do that are pulling back and saying, no, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. That's not safe. That's not safe to do. And I don't feel safe around you doing that. And so that's a big piece of the teaching that I do, how to find these channels where you can really connect with your intuition. And one of the ways that I do is actually by keeping a dream journal, because that's what's going on in your unconscious mind. Your dreams are in your unconscious mind. And so when I write them down, and I write, if you can see me, I'm actually mimicking writing them longhand, because that creates a connection between my left and right brain. If I type them, it doesn't. If I write longhand, it does. And then throughout the day, I've established a firmer, stronger connection with my unconscious thought processes, which is 90% of my decision process. And I make better intuitive decisions.
So how do you record your dreams? Because I'm the type of person, I think 99% of the time, I know I dreamed. I got no clue.
It takes practice and it takes intention. I have kept dream journals since I think I was 20 when I started. And I did it for a college paper that I was writing on why we sleep and dream. By the way, there's lots of theories we still don't know. And so I would write out the dreams. And I might remember one every other night, maybe two. And by the time I was through that semester, I was writing down upwards of 30 dreams a night. And I could have written all day long and not captured all of them. And so what happened then is I started doing lucid dreaming. Now, how did I get there? And I guess I should explain lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is when you're dreaming and you know you're dreaming while you're dreaming, and you can affect the dream.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So it's going the other way with your conscious mind into your unconscious, rather than bringing your unconscious mind into your conscious mind. Whatever, you know what I mean. So the dreaming, I set an intention. When I am falling asleep, I will wake up and remember my dreams. Now, that may not happen the first night or the second night, but when you keep giving yourself that kind of self-hypnotic thought, that affirmation, then when you wake up, the first thought is, what did I just dream? And you're still in that in-between state, and you can start to remember what the dreams were. And once I start writing one dream, more will start coming up, because I'm building that connection.
It's a muscle. Yeah.
Exactly.
Building on it.
It's fascinating. Oh yeah. That's one of the most powerful tools I know. I do talk about it. And I give some exercises in my book for building that intuitive muscle. Yeah.
Are there other ways that we can, outside of, journaling our dreams, are there other ways that we can start to engage our intuition?
Absolutely. Glad you asked. I will tell you what, there are so many ways. And one of the things that I encourage people to do while they're learning to recognize, that's first, learning to recognize the intuition and practicing kind of tapping into that unconscious repository of the intuition, is to not spend so darn much time trying to judge, because here's the killer. Is it right? Is it true? And instead, to get curious. What is this about? And so one of the really fun ways that I know to tap into my intuition is to do guided meditations.
I love guided meditations.
And in the guided meditations, again, I have one of these in my book where you can actually record your own voice doing this meditation, where you go into your meditation and you meet your higher self, which is, of course, your unconscious, right? Or your intuition. And you ask questions and you just listen for the answers. So that's a great way to do it. Another fun way that I love is when I see things that if it was a dream, it's not, it's in the real world, but if it was a dream, it would be symbolic. And then I go look up what the symbology of it is, because my unconscious and your unconscious carry a repository of all these archetypes and all these symbols that have meant so much to our cultures all these thousands of years, right? And so I believe that my unconscious sees things and pays attention to things that are giving me messages. I didn't create that thing. I didn't create that chair on the side of the highway, but I noticed it. Someone in the car with me might not notice it because it doesn't mean anything to them. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's I've forgotten the term that it's called, but when you say if you're looking to buy a particular car,
yes,
and then you suddenly see that car everywhere,
it's called a consciousness bias. Yes,
that's it.
Yeah. And so that's another way to recognize the intuition speaking to you. I mean, if you turn on the radio and a song really, the lyrics really strike a chord, pun intended, or if you see a billboard and it says something that feels like it's talking to you, that's your unconscious recognizing it, right? So I pay attention to those. And one of the things that's super fun to pay attention to, and I have a lot of people talk to me about this, so it must really resonate with a lot of folks, is seeing repeated numbers. I'm seeing 555. I'm seeing 1111. And in numerology, those all mean things, right? What do they mean? It's in our mass consciousness. And so it's not so much about whether the angels are speaking to you. If that resonates with you, great, but it's not necessarily about that. It's about your unconscious said, this means something, pay attention.
Or what you're thinking at that point in time when you notice the number. Like the number that my husband and I always see is 1111.
Oh yeah, which in symbology means the veil is thin between your energy and manifestation, and therefore what you are thinking is likely to generate the energy that creates it.
Yeah, so whenever we see it, we're like, oh, think of lots of money.
Yeah, right?
But
money.
Yeah,
right?
Ironically, that's my husband's birthday.
Perfect.
1111, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So it probably sounds very strange to have a marketer and a brander talking about, numerology, but ultimately what happened for me was I was so heads down, going with the flow, letting wherever life carried me for it to take me there next, right? To becoming more internally navigated, being in the flow of that energetic inward generation of what my intentions are, generation of my purpose and meaning, right? And so I'm moving out into the world, and it's a very energetic process, and it is a lot of woo, but it's really powerful woo. And hey, if it's working,
and that's it. I'm all about the woo. I'm totally there, because what it has done for me in the last 3-4 years is amazing. But I think you hit on an important point there I wanted to go back to, and that's, if you don't know where you're going, anywhere is going to get you there. And I think we're not taught to really pay attention to those things. So I think we get on this treadmill of life where we're checking all of those boxes on this mysterious societal list that somebody created.
Right.
And we don't actually take the time to know who we are, what we want, and where we actually want to go.
Absolutely. And I do definitely believe that, the universe, God, whatever you attribute a energetic, powerful force in the world, or in the universe. I definitely believe it can take lemons and make lemonade. And I absolutely believe that every experience that I had, from my divorces to having my identity stolen, and by the way, I turned into, like, you know, one of those great like cop dramas, and I found her, and, you know, she got held accountable, not just for my situation, but for 3 others that she had done in California. However, all of those things can happen, and then I can pull them together and say, oh, look at this juicy learning that I got, and look at what I can share with someone else who may not have had to deal with the problems that I had to deal with, but they are exhausted, they are stressed out, they aren't sure what they're doing or how they're going to reinvent themselves, or they feel stuck in a situation where they can't really move to the next level of whatever it is that's right for them, because what they've been doing stopped working. Because you have to do it differently to move to the next level of this video game of life.
And that's it, is that, you know, I think when we've come through one of those side adventures of challenges, where, you know, your initial observation of the situation is, why is this happening? What's going on? What did I do? But when you find your way through to the other side, I think the importance and where the real lesson is learned is by taking that pause and looking at it through those different lenses and saying, hey, wait a second. Okay, it was kind of shitty what happened, but what did I get out of it? And we've done that a lot over the last year with, you know, COVID and the lockdowns and all of this. And, you know, if you had told me where I would be today a year ago, I would have been like, are you crazy? There's no way. But it was because of those events and listening to my inner wisdom,
absolutely,
that we pivoted and we made decisions that led us to a place that 12 months ago, we never thought we would have been where we are. But it was listening to those moments and looking at it going, okay, but what am I getting from this? What am I learning from this? And I think that's the difference between perhaps falling into mental distress over certain situations and, you know, actually coming through it. We're all going to go through those challenges. We're all going to have those problems.
Absolutely.
But I think it's how you reflect upon it is going to be the difference between if you let it bring you down or if you let it bring you to that next level.
Well, it's true. And I think a big piece of that is perspective. And we may not have perspective because when life is right up in your face, it's often extremely difficult to say, oh, I'm going to just meditate on the mountaintop and I will find my answer. And I mean, I practiced, you know, it's not permanent. The only thing permanent is change. And, you know, whatever I'm feeling, that's just feelings. It's not necessarily the reality. And, you know, I did all of that, you know, great stuff, right? Except I was still mad or hurt or scared. And that was my Southern drawl coming out, scared. And so what I really have found makes all the difference in the world is to not try to do this alone. Whatever it is that I'm trying to really manifest a change in myself, my personal growth, whether it's weight loss and I've just been struggling with it, or it's a new career that I'm really passionate about and feel purposeful in, doesn't matter, new relationship, whatever. Don't do it alone. And so I have mentors, I have coaches, I got a team, I've got a pit crew, I got you know, a tribe that, and I have different tribes depending on whether I'm around other women leaders who are really practicing advocacy for business transformation, or whether I'm around, my group of, metaphysical, we're going to manifest some good energy here and save my laptop from coffee spills, or whatever it is, that I have people around me in my circle to help me stay centered and grounded. They can share their experiences. They can ask, have you thought about it this way? Have you tried this? When I went through that, here's what I had. And that becomes this just beautiful dance. I was just talking to somebody the other day that said, life is not a race, it's a dance.
But, I look at when I was in that moment of crisis, when I was dealing with all of my problems,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt alone. I was alone because I wasn't being authentic and sharing what I was going through. I hid it.
Oh yeah, you were holding yourself alone.
I was holding myself alone. And I think the power comes from that moment that you're able to be vulnerable.
Oh yeah.
And that moment that you're able to say, hey, I'm not okay. I need help.
Right.
And then I find once you do that, those tribe members are attracted to you. They come to you. You start to find those people that you need to connect to. But you have to first, that first step, that really scary step, is that vulnerability.
Well, I think there's actually a step before that. I agree with you, because that you have to ask for the help you need, right? And sometimes you don't even have to ask. You just have to recognize you need it, and it will come to you, right? It's that consciousness shifting, and what your unconscious is paying attention to, you'll start to recognize, right? That awareness bias, right? That consciousness bias. But there's a step before that. And that step I call being sick and tired of being sick and tired.
True. Very true.
And that's where I was when my health was in the basement, and I didn't know how. I mean, the money was great. It was so great that I was hostage to it. And I couldn't see how to extricate myself from that situation. And so I had to hit a wall with my health where it was like, I'm either going to do this differently, and I mean radically differently, or I may not be around. Now I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I will do whatever it takes to shift.
Now, the shift, that was the name of your book, right?
Yeah, own your own shift.
Own your own shift.
Yeah, nobody's going to do this for you.
Nobody's going to do the hard work for you.
Nope. They will walk with you, but they cannot do it for you.
No, you have to do it yourself. Is it already available, or?
Yes, it's on Amazon, Kindle. Yeah.
Amazon.
Absolutely.
Excellent. I am going to make sure that there's a link to your book in the show notes.
Fantastic.
As well as a link to all of your social media and your website, because I know you have a whole bunch more information for people to help them through the journey.
Oh yeah.
Like we could go on for hours on this.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm going to include all that information. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a great conversation. I think it's the beginning of many.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creator.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Roller coaster. Ride, ride.